an audiophonic proposition. Chapter 7. Time moves funny now, as it is. Brought to you by Warrant, providing the finest quality products and services since the whatever. We live amongst the future.
Hey there, everybody.
Hello, friends and neighbors. Welcome to Ink and Echo, number 7.
Number 7.
With your old pals, Josh and the other guy.
I hope people can hear my voice the way I hear it. It sounds so fun to me right now.
Yeah, Andy and I were at a concert last night that took a strain on our voices, but we'll get to that in a moment.
Yep.
So, Andy, I want to give our listeners some context about our guest.
Give
today,
it to him.
Who is Mr. Matthew D. Jordan, who is an author and also a podcaster. And he's written, well, he's in the middle of the 3rd book of a trilogy of Weird West novels. So that'd be sort of like a Western with some sci-fi mixed in. And it's called Tincture. And it is on iTunes. And so he serializes the chapters into single podcast episodes, and they're very well put together. It's not just a guy at a microphone reading a book. It's they're more like almost like radio plays because they're very intermixed with really good music and sound effects, and it's just an excellent, honestly, compelling series of books. And so Matthew is kind of a friend, but not someone I know super well, but I've just followed his work. And it's kind of one of those guys he's an independent writer who has put all this stuff out himself. And it's really, really good. It deserves a larger following than it has. So I say that because we get pretty specific on Tincture because I'm a fan and I've read the first 2 books or listened to them both. So just to give you a little context, and if you want to go look up his stuff, we'll put the link in the liner notes, and you absolutely should listen to these books, or they're also available on iTunes, but hearing them is really the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Very entertaining.
And he's
stuff.
a fellow sufferer from imposter syndrome. So that's always nice to talk about.
Yeah, he's in constant fear of the writing police showing up at his door and telling him that he's actually not allowed to do what he's doing. But Andy, we were up a little late last night.
Yeah, I woke up on your couch this morning.
Yeah, at 6 a.m. And who did we see, Andy?
We saw the Prophets of Rage at Red Rocks Auditorium Amphitheater. What do they call it?
Yeah.
Amphitheater. Which was Tom and Tim and Brad from Rage Against the Machine, and Chuck D and Be Real from Cypress Hill and Public Enemy. And I don't remember which one belongs to which. AWOL Nation opened, which I don't know or really care about. But dang, Prophets of Rage was so fun. Like, I was expecting to have fun, but I just kind of got lost in it more than I've gotten lost in anything.
The most physically energetic I have ever seen you be. And so, people, you should understand, Andy and I at this point in our lives don't go to a lot of shows at all.
No.
We don't go to a lot of concerts, and we used to be very regular showgoers to divey little bars to see He Is Legend or Me Without You, all kinds of bands, and that whole world does not interest me really at all anymore.
Yeah.
But to see one of our favorite bands from high school years, Rage Against the Machine, essentially see a version of them
right
live in a beautiful, gigantic arena like Red Rocks, it's like,
You
that
have
may
to do
not
it.
ever happen again
Right.
in your life.
Right.
And I, like, you asked me if I wanted to go months ago, and I was like, yeah, I don't care that much. But then you generously bought me a ticket, and I am so glad I was there.
Yeah.
Because that was so much more energetic and entertaining than I could have imagined.
Well, and I was not worried, but I had low expectations because I was like, okay, Zach's not going to be there,
Yeah.
the original singer. I was like, but it is one of those things where it's like, I just can't not go to this, even if it's not quite what I wanted. And I do have to say, I think if Zach was there, it would have been even better in my mind.
Yeah.
But it was still, one of the best concerts I've ever been to, I think.
Right. And my assumption was, even when they started touring, was that, okay, we'll get a bunch of Prophets of Rage songs that nobody's ever heard of, and then maybe 2 Rage songs. And it was 75% Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, totally.
And even they seemed to know exactly what tracks everybody wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Which was wonderful. And it was almost like the vocals didn't matter because they were so good.
Right.
So spot on playing those songs, and
oh gosh, yeah.
Just how tight the three of them are together playing.
Well, and I didn't even think about it ahead of time, but the like being able to sing with an amphitheater full of people, the lines "All hell can't stop us now" at the end of Guerrilla Radio, and then ending the night with "Killing in the Name of," and just screaming, "Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me" with that song. I was just like, felt so good. And that's why my voice sounds like this right now. But dang, I can't believe I was able to say, "Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me" with even 3/4 of Rage Against the Machine in front of me. That was just so cool.
It was a spiritual experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I wasn't making a joke.
Yeah.
Would just like to give a shout out to the gentleman in front of us who smoked an enormous amount of weed.
Yeah.
I don't really understand how he was still standing up. I mean,
no.
Granted, we live in Colorado. Obviously, people do that. And Red Rocks was kind of just a continuous plume of marijuana smoke. But this guy, if you picture like a Swisher Sweet cigarillo, larger than a cigarette, not as big as a cigar, but he smoked this entire thing as he was dancing around and singing.
He was
along,
sharing it a little bit, but
shared it,
not a lot.
Yeah, but it's like that's a lot of weed.
Yeah,
I understand people grow tolerances the way they do with alcohol or anything. But then he finished that and he got out another one and kept going.
Yeah.
And then at some point he disappeared, but that is baffling to me.
Well, and I've never understood, like, the tickets were not cheap. Like, why go to something like that just to be in a state? Yeah, like, what is he gonna take away from that? I don't know. Like, I wanted to be clear headed and be able to take it in and remember. And like, so why spend all the money just to? But yeah, I just don't. I've never understood that sort of thing.
Like, he smoking that much, he probably could have had the same experience at home with his stereo, just cranking Rage really, really loud.
Yeah, he probably would have thought he was in the same place.
Yeah. So there you have it, folks. Me and Andy,
we did it.
Don't know what it's. Yeah. It was a great time.
I'm sore, like, on other spots in my body, like my back, my abs are sore. I'm sore. And it's not just from your couch. It's from the show. Yeah.
Well, and so people who don't know you might not know how rare it is to see you move around that much.
Yeah.
Because Andy was jumping and swinging his arms and headbanging, and I was as well. But Andy's just a very...
well, there's those rare moments when you can just, like, get lost in something. Like the older I don't experience moments like that often much at all.
No.
So it's like I have I don't give a shit what the lady next to me cared or the people behind us. It's like, you know what? I don't care at all right now. Whereas, probably 5 years ago, I would have been maybe even more restrained just because I was like, well, I don't want to like accidentally step on someone's toe or do, but I just didn't care one single bit.
Yeah. And had a great time because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say it's about time to hear from our sponsor already.
All right, let's do it. Oh, damn it. I tried to get it.
Andy, you have heard of these subscription food services that will deliver ingredients.
Oh, did we get Blue Apron on the show?
To your door? Well, hold on. I mean, that's the one that everybody knows. But I was just making sure you'd heard of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's companies like Blue Apron. There's Hello Fresh. There's one called Plated.
Mm-hmm.
And so they deliver a box of fresh food prepared by chefs to your door.
That's a great idea.
And there's a recipe, and all you have to do is put it together.
Mm-hmm.
There's a handful of services like that now. And, those are all well and good, but what is the downfall of that scenario, though? Like, what's the least convenient thing about having food delivered to your door?
I mean, in
that case.
Well, waiting for the delivery man, opening your door, picking that box up.
What comes after the box?
You open.
What do you got to do with it?
You got to open it. You open it up. You got to take all the ingredients out. You got to read something. You got to have the materials to cook. You got to put things in things and heat things up and cool some things down. I don't know. I'm getting overwhelmed just talking about this whole process.
Yeah. They try to make it easy, but it's still very stressful. I mean, you have to prepare the meal is what I'm getting at. That sure, they deliver it to you, but you still have to make it. And who has time to make food for themselves?
It's almost sounding like a scam to me at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically Amway. Blue Apron Amway. So the hardworking, busy individual that you are, you still have to prepare the food, and that takes time. Well, now someone has solved that problem. So our sponsor today is called Tiny Chef, and they are the only meal subscription service that not only delivers the food right to your door, but they also send along a tiny little chef to prepare the food for you overnight while you sleep.
Overnight? Wow.
Yeah. So it's kind of like they make the meal for the next day.
Wow.
Now, Andy, when I say a tiny chef, I'm not talking about a little person or a door for a midget or an Oompa Loompa, because that would be offensive. People don't like those words.
Sure.
The little people don't like to be called midgets.
Okay.
But do you remember that old fairy tale about the elves who would help the shoemaker finish his shoes overnight, the cobbler, because he had too much work to do?
Sure.
Well, a lot of people don't realize those elves, which are real, by the way. It's not just a fairy tale. They're timeless beings, so they're practically immortal, and they could live for thousands of years. But the trouble is, they've been out of a job for about 200 years because there's not any cobblers around.
No,
nobody's making handmade little wooden clogs or anything.
No, we got Zappos and Payless, and we put them on the street, didn't we?
Right. Yeah. There's very few jobs available for these little elves, and they've pretty much been out of work since the 1800s. I mean, there's the occasional job opening at the Keebler Tree making cookies, but the pension and benefits is so good that nobody ever leaves that place. Who's going to give up?
Yeah, I remember reading that article.
Cookies,
yeah, totally.
In a tree. Yeah. So these little elves who used to make shoes, now they have a job again. They have an occupation because Tiny Chef gathered them up. And so basically Tiny Chef delivers your food through FedEx or UPS, whichever one they use. And the Tiny Chef doesn't actually come in the box. He apparates into your home later on by elven magic, and gets to work in the kitchen. And in the morning, you wake up to the savory smell of a freshly prepared meal, and the tiny chef himself will actually have vanished by that point. So you don't even ever see it. You just see the fresh food all ready for you.
This sounds like Santa. It's like a Santa you could have every day.
I mean, everybody knows Santa's not real. But,
okay.
But these elves are very
real. Yeah, the analogy
You're
falls
right.
apart a little
like
bit there, but totally. Yeah.
Sure. And if the little elf who's making your food overnight while you sleep, if he has any questions about your dietary limitations or your taste preferences, he'll just kind of come into your room in the night, in the dark, and sit on your chest and stare at you until you wake up, and their eyes kind of glow like a cat's, and it isn't creepy at all.
Oh, yeah.
Now, our friends at Tiny Chef are so confident of the freshness of their food and the culinary skills of these little tiny elves that they're offering our listeners a 1-week free trial, and that's 5 full meals.
Wow.
Absolutely free. With the offer code, we all float down here, Georgie, down here we all float.
There's nothing creepy about anything in this service at all. This is great.
No, it's the easiest way to eat food that exists.
Oh, yeah.
So visit inkandecho.com/tinychef to learn more.
Thank you, Tiny Chef. I've been thinking about it. Is there any way that the chef could stick around and actually help feed me the meal that they create? Could that be like an add-on option?
The folks at Tiny Chef kind of have that in development.
Okay.
Yeah, and it'll work with an app that kind of integrates when a fork in hand goes to your mouth, and it'll communicate all that to the elves.
Boy.
So we're getting there, Andy. It's a really exciting time to live in.
Boy, you're telling me.
And on that note, I'd say it's time to talk to our pal Matthew Jordan.
All right, sounds good.
Matthew, do you recall meeting me in my backyard briefly for about 5 minutes when Trevor introduced us?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
We had spent the day, Trevor. I listened to the episode where you guys interviewed Trevor.
Okay.
Oh, good.
I imagine that. I think that listening to Josh and Trevor talk to each other must be what taking Quaaludes is like.
Why is that?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was very relaxing.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I remember meeting you. I think it was because you're his neighbor, right? And then
right. Mm-hmm.
You were having like a drum circle or something in your backyard with a fire.
Yes, with some cocopelli and
Josh does drum
patchouli
circles all the time.
So that had to have been very close before you moved, I believe.
Yeah, I remember. It was
about 3 years ago.
Probably, yeah. It was the tail end of a day that we were filming the book trailer for the second Tincture book with Trevor hanging out of the back of my car.
Yes, that's right.
That was an interesting day. I'm sure he was more than frustrated with me.
Well, he's so patient. That's a cool video, by the way, but we'll get to Tincture stuff. So I guess before we get too deep, real quick for Andy's sake and for our listeners' sake, maybe give a little spiel of what you have done and what you're currently doing as far as job and writing and those things.
Actually, if you could just do it for me, not for the listeners. I don't
just
really
for
care
Andy.
about
Listeners, just mute this part.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me relax here. I'll get my kimono on. Hold on.
Okay. All right. So I've learned you've got a kimono on. That's a good place.
I have
to
a
start.
kimono.
Okay.
I mean, you guys were so nice to send a car. This is the nicest hotel room I've ever been in.
Anything for our guests. You know,
we don't mess around. Yeah.
Yeah. Hold on. I got to do another bump here real quick. Okay. All right. What was the question? Something about what?
Something about you. Anything about you.
As a day job, I am a designer. I do design and art direction for a software company. And I play pretend as a writer on the internet writing. Weird Western is the name. I was told. I had never heard of it before writing. And then Josh writes reviews of my books that I don't deserve.
That's what he would say about anyone giving him a good review of his book too.
Yes, it can't be possibly true anything positive that is said about my words.
And you're in Seattle now, correct? And pretty recently moved from Denver. Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah, I've been out here for 2 years, beginning of 2014. I'm in Bellevue, but they just call it the East Side because nobody wants to admit they live in Bellevue. They're just like, oh, I'm in Seattle on the way east side, across the water.
Right. Gotcha.
Right.
All right.
So at the time that I met you, I believe you were, well, if you were filming the book trailer for book 2, it must have been on the horizon. But I feel like at the point that I met you and when I started listening to Tincture, book 1 was not quite done in the podcast serial. Would that sound about right?
Yeah, probably. If it was probably the summer of 2013. So yeah, it was maybe midway towards maybe 2/3 of the way through. Yeah.
Okay. And I have a lot of questions for you regarding writing, just since I do it as well, and the creative process, but also because you seem to do something that is a little different than most. At least that's my perception.
You talking about his kimono?
Yeah, just wearing a kimono to write every day.
I've got my kimono and my Led Zeppelin State Fair mirror that I've been doing coke on that you guys hear right now.
Nice. I'm going to take those notes down already. I'll be using that in the future.
So those the chapters, do you or did you write them live, so to speak, from week to week, or did you have a chunk of the book written ahead of time?
Wait, can I ask for a little clarification on what specifically you're talking about?
Yes.
I'm assuming, I'm gathering that there's I know you've written stories but they're in podcast form. And then is that all I need to know for this?
Well, no, I mean you're free to know whatever you like. I'm not sure how interesting it is. Again, this is going to be your last episode that you ever invite a guest on. But So we're talking about the Tincture books, which are weird Western science fiction stuff, and I spend my days desperately trying not to be Nicolas Cage's character from The Weatherman, always working on that terrible science fiction. But what I did is I started an essay blog that I had been working on that I neglect horribly, that I needed column filler for, which is strange to say because it was just like I was setting the deadlines. And so I wrote this like really bizarre short story, very, very influenced at that time far too much by The Gunslinger by Stephen King. And that chapter has been since rewritten, but the essay site, that chapter, I got more positive response than anything else that I'd written there. And I got a lot of emails saying, hey, stop writing about, just quit trying to be funny and talking about your butt. Like, let's do the science fiction thing. We like that. And so I just kept doing it. And then, so to answer Josh's question, I want to say that I write in advance like a real writer, but I totally don't do that. Okay. Usually when a book starts, I'll have a few chapters sort of in the barrel or in the chamber, whatever the metaphor needs to be. And then, see, I'm a real good writer. I'm so good. I'm such a good writer. But then, so then like 2 chapters in, it becomes week to week, which presents a whole different level of challenges, because what I'll do is I'll write it and then record it and then edit it, add music, and then put it up. And once it's up, it's up. Like I don't think I've gone back and been like, whoops, wrote myself into a corner there, which is sometimes kind of the fun, but also it's just harrowing.
Well, you heard about Kanye West going back and changing his album after he put it out on Tidal. You could do that. There's a precedent now.
I hadn't. But if it gets me closer to to Jesus, then
I was going to say, if you wanted to, you could just say you're being like Kanye, and you can have any excuse you want now.
Or you could add some CGI creatures in there, like George Lucas did, and be like, yes, readers, this makes it better. This makes it completely better.
Yeah,
I do have an entourage in the what? No podcast. I don't know, a couple of guys. I don't know. It was on Skype. I just answered. Sorry about that. No, it's nothing.
So that is fascinating and terrifying to
Yeah.
me, the fact that you wrote them with that sort of reckless abandon, especially because book 2 in particular gets pretty complex and time twisty, and it's so how did you not, did you have any sort of outline or an idea of where the book would end up so that you didn't sort of, I don't know, so there weren't any loopholes, or so
Or
that
like
you
a
didn't
crazy bulletin
break your
board
own
with
mythology?
pictures and strings going, attaching different things that you look at all day.
Oh yeah, you mean a crazy wall? I think there's a Tumblr dedicated to those.
Oh, cool.
They call them crazy walls. So yes, I have. So what I do, I hope this has answered the question, but I will have pages of notes, and these notes look like the last thing I've ever written before I disappeared, and it's just basically all of the things that have happened to that point in whatever book I'm in, and then all the things I kind of want to happen, which, as Josh I'm sure can attest to, about half of those things will ever happen.
Huh.
And then I will run them after I write a chapter. I'll have my wife proofread it, and then I will sit and just hammer her with questions until I feel like it's as tight as it can be. But I live in fear every moment of every day for that email where it's going to be like, the thing you thought was so clever doesn't make any sense because of this, and then I'll just stop.
How often does that happen?
It hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
I know people. I've had more than one very frustrated. Like, if someone's frustrated, I understand that, and that's okay.
Okay.
But if it's like, hey, dummy, you totally missed this part about this.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had that yet, but I'm kind of waiting for it.
Okay.
Yeah. And with so when you were in the process of writing the first book, did you know or plan at that time that it would be a trilogy, or was it a standalone novel in your head at the moment?
I was kind of planning. Well, I was planning a trilogy. I guess two thoughts on that. I was planning a trilogy because that's what everybody who starts writing science fiction says. I'm gonna write like 15 of these, and that's gonna be my ticket out of wherever I am.
Right.
But I was doing like one of the only other interviews I've done, because I'm mortified to speak to people. Is that same question came up, and I answered like, oh yeah, it's totally a trilogy. And then in my mind I went, did I just lie to this guy? I think I just lied to this guy.
Well, don't you dare lie to us, man. We're going to sniff it out.
Never.
Yeah. And there was a decent, and I'm not being critical, I'm just asking because I know life happens and you recently had a child. There was a decent gap between the finish of book 2 and now you are in the middle of book 3. Was that purely just busyness or lack of ideas, or did you kind of know what you wanted book 3 to be?
I mean, laziness, probably. So between book 2 and 3, I moved from Colorado to Washington. New job, had a kid. So a lot of it is just, like life and busyness. And the job I have out here keeps me insanely busy. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there's a term for it other than hack, but when I'm trying to lay out a chapter or something, like a thought, I'm not one of these people who can kind of like jump to the next one or jump to a couple of thoughts later, get that written, flesh that out, and then come back and see what fits. Like every word has to come after another when I'm writing. And so what'll happen is I will spend, I do most of the writing in my head when I'm, on the commute. But if I can't get to that next like something, so I know how it begins, how it ends, how it middles, but if I can't write that next letter, that next sentence, it just doesn't get done. And then I got to the point with book 3. So I am so far from a big deal. But I was starting to get an email or a direct tweet or something like 2 or 3 times a week saying, hey, so I don't get a lot of angry, I get a lot of suggestions. Oh. It's like, hey, so where is book 3, Mr. Trilogy? I was like, hey, I'm working hard on it. And then I just go, weep silently in a room somewhere.
Yes.
Well, you're not, at least you're not George R. R. Martin. He's probably getting far more than that at this point.
Man, he's got the hat and the suspenders, so.
But no kimono, though. His luck.
No kimono.
Yeah, the suspenders keep all his dough intact.
Oh,
Now he's never coming on this podcast, Josh. Thank you for that.
That's okay. He's. I'm not going to say what I was going to say. So I will confess, I have not started book 3 at all intentionally, because I'm one of those people who I do want it all to be out so I can plow through it.
Sure.
And also, I mean, because of and I noticed this during book 2, like I said, it gets complex. You know, there's some time and universe shifts. Perhaps not universe, but you know what I mean, timeline, and just some alternate universe, perhaps sort of a mirror. And it is tricky, and you really have to pay attention to figure it all out. So about 5 chapters into book 2, I just stopped and waited until it was done. And then I started again and listened to the whole thing and absolutely loved it.
How many chapters are in the first 2 books?
19.
I'm picturing Josh sitting there with a Kindle, and then he just looks up, and then it's like smash cut to his Kindle on fire in a garbage bin somewhere.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, Andy, what did you ask?
I was just asking how many chapters are in each book.
19.
Okay. Is that
And
like
that brings up a unique question, Andy.
what is that? Are you going to ask it?
Matthew, is that just happenstance, or is
yeah.
that a tiny nod to the Dark Tower universe?
I don't know what you guys are talking about. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Ooh,
Yeah, cool.
mystery.
Andy, 19's just a number. It's nothing. It's fine. So
See,
it's very safe.
Here's the problem. Even being asked questions about this is giving me this overwhelming sense of fraudulence. It's like, yeah, don't even bother answering, because whatever you say is going to be such horse shit. But yes, 19 chapters, and I don't know.
Okay, that's fair enough, and I understand, but I also, I mean, because there are readers out there who are idiots who would think that you are somehow being fraudulent, and they don't understand the difference between like an homage or just like a reference to something that you appreciate. That It's not like you trying to muscle your way into someone else's universe. And I believe you even have a statement on your website that kind of addresses that.
Maybe tell me if I'm making an observation that's not correct, but it seems like the thought of you don't have to say if you were planning on doing 19 chapters for each book or not, but it seems like that idea combined with, okay, well, once I put a chapter out, then it's done, and then I have to figure out what the next chapter is going to be. Like, those seem like actually very good constraints to put on your art, such that it'll actually get you to move along within it. Like, you've removed, like, I don't have to worry about how many chapters are. I don't have to worry about the next chapter next week. I just have to do this one right now. So it seems like pretty good ideas, honestly, in terms of just being able to put something out. Is that correct at all, or is that something you thought about?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is. Well, I show what I should do is stop being a jerk and say thank you. But in fact, I'll stop being so coy about something I really don't have any right to. So the whole 19 thing, the homage we're talking about in the beginning of each of the Kindle books, there's this painfully crafted statement, and it's not really in fear of being sued or anything, but it's like, hey, because a lot of the reviews I've read will say like, hey, if you like The Gunslinger, read this or listen to this. And so I've like the aforementioned, actually the first 2 chapters I think I rewrote was very much there's a lot of like Stephen King in it. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like, hey, I'm writing fan fiction. I thought it would be clever to work like recognition of his universe into the book. Mm-hmm. But in no way is it, as the statement says, in no way are they related. Like it's like if you're watching a TV show and the TV show is about another TV show or something. Even that's not a bad, that is a bad comparison. But it's like, yeah, you might like the actual book, The Gunslinger, is not really a character, but it is like referenced. It's a thing that exists in this universe.
Huh.
Oh my God, that was so long-winded. Did that make sense?
That's great. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Andy, there's a character who is sort of treats the book Stephen King, or the book The Gunslinger by Stephen King, almost as like his Bible, and he Matthew, I'm misremembering, but does he think he is one of the characters, or he thinks he is?
He thinks that the book was written about him. The Gunslinger
That's
was
right.
written about him.
Yes.
And there are, a number of things that hopefully, maybe, I don't know, maybe book 3 will talk about it a little bit. I don't know. But like he reads it, and for insert reasons here, he becomes obsessed with it. And in like one of the first 2 chapters, he's questioning a guy. I don't remember the dialogue. I probably should, but like he's asking, who sent you? Like, did the man in black, or did your man in black send you? Did the gunslingers? Like he doesn't understand what he's reading. He doesn't understand that it's fiction. He doesn't even understand who the characters are or what it means. It's just like he just becomes zealous about the concept of the book and thinks people are out to get him because of it. Like a crazy person.
Well, and maybe this is minimizing it too much, but it almost just sounds like the Gunslinger book and the series is almost just like a prop in your story. Like
totally. Yeah.
It could have been Lord of the Rings or something, and be like, where's Frodo, or something like that.
Totally.
Good thought there, Andy.
Oh man, thanks so much.
No, you're exactly right. Yeah, it could have been anything.
Well, I mean, let's be real though. I mean, it's a weird Western, so it takes place in sort of an unknown time, an unknown place, in a landscape that is somewhat familiar to what we know as sort of the planet Earth or the United States. And there are not a lot, but there are gunfights. I mean, it's you're reading it, and it's no surprise why that I'm a huge fan of the Gunslinger, or why anyone would make the comment like, oh, if you like the Gunslinger, this may be up your alley.
Yeah,
all the way up your alley.
Which I hope you take as an incredible compliment, from those people.
I want to, but I have heard episodes of this podcast before, so I know that we share the inability to accept compliments, Josh.
Right. Very true. So, brief tangent, but I do have, in fact, more questions about Tincture. But are you a fan of particularly the Gunslinger, or did you enjoy the whole Dark Tower saga, or have you read it even?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask that question. So here's where my Garth Marenghi like fraudulence comes out in a big way. I have not finished it on purpose, and here's my excuse. I think I made it to book 6. What's right after Wolves of the Kella?
Song of Susanna.
Yeah, I have started Song of Susanna, and then when I started writing Tincture, I stopped. And it is for the lamest excuse ever. And I've heard comedians say this before. And it's like comedians say they won't watch their oh my God, I hate saying this out loud. They won't watch their favorite comedians perform because they're terrified of stealing from them.
Oh no,
they don't.
I feel
they
like
don't want to go on
reasonable.
stage. Yeah, well, they don't want to perform the material of their heroes, basically. And so, like, I picked up in the middle of Tincture when I picked up, I guess it was Song of Susanna. It's been a long time. And I went, no, I can't. Like, my body wouldn't let it happen. And so it's kind of my treat for when book 3 is over. I'm saving it. But yeah, I've read book 1 like 1,000 times, and then book 2, 3, and then whatever. But yeah, that's the big dark, like, oh, you're such a Stephen King fan, huh? Secret. But
Josh, you're saving certain Stephen King books. You haven't read them yet. It seems sort of not for that reason, but you're like pacing yourself on his books so you don't read them all.
Yeah, I don't know if I would ever say I'm saving them, but
like what's
the I've never read The Stand.
Yeah,
I've never read The Talisman. I mean, it's some of his greatest hits I've not yet touched, because I know they'll be great. But I've still read about 33 of the man's 65 books or whatever it is.
My God.
But I do have to say,
one time,
I feel like I mean, Matthew, I make music for a living and have put out albums and stuff, and there's been periods, it's not for every album, but there have been certain times where I'm just like, I need to stop listening to all these people that I'm looking up to, because I don't feel like that would be good for me in this writing process. And then there's been other times where I'm like, man, I need to be listening to them, because otherwise I have no idea what the hell I'm doing this time around, kind of thing. And it's just weird how the cycle goes, and each time it kind of requires something different. But I think that's actually a totally reasonable thing to think and realize.
And it's interesting to me that you enjoy and have read The Gunslinger in particular so many times over, because I like it personally, but every person I've recommended the Dark Tower series to, except for Andy, maybe, they read The Gunslinger and they're like, I don't get it. And maybe they're just dumb people. Maybe they shouldn't be my friends.
Maybe they shouldn't be your friends.
Yeah. But they're just like, what's with the fat lady in the church? And like, why is there a crow that talks? And I do tell them,
Court
like,
seems
listen,
mean. Why is Court so mean?
Yeah. And so I tell them, okay, stick through it until the Wastelands at least. Like read 1, 2, and 3 because 2 and 3 are riveting. And if you don't like it by then, you should probably just kill yourself. But I mean, The Gunslinger is a weird book, and I always give the caveat. I'm like, listen, he wrote this when he was 19 years old, if I'm not mistaken, and then published it many years later. But like, it's not a perfect book. It is weird. And even the tone of it is substantially different from the rest of the Dark Tower, because it's a little more of a standalone Western with some strangeness thrown in.
Well, wasn't it
weird? Could you call it a weird Western? Is that what you'd call that?
Wasn't the first Dark Tower book? Wasn't it written in chunks, like it was serialized in the whatever sci-fi magazine that was? I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but
I know,
and then compiled later.
I know that at least the chapter "The Way Station" appeared in a sci-fi magazine. I don't know if it came out bit by bit. So, but anyway, I know he wrote it in its entirety when he was very young. So, anyway,
yeah.
Okay.
There's another thing you could feel bad about, or we
things.
could all feel bad about, is how young he was putting out brilliant material. That's if we're looking for more things to feel bad about, that could be another one.
Well, I wish the cocaine jokes I've been making were on purpose, but I'm now realizing that's like the Stephen King sort of mythos, right? He's been why does he put out so many books all so fast, and why are some of them really, really, really super amazing? I don't know. Booger sugar, I guess. I don't know.
Well, he doesn't even remember certain books. You got to get to that spot where you're like, Tincture, I don't
just
remember. Book 3, I don't even remember writing this stuff.
He says that, but he's got to be so full of shit. The wall in his house littered. The wall in his house littered with awards, and then like the dump truck of fan mail he uses as kindling has got to be a reminder.
I listened to the Tommy Knockers, and that book is batshit insane, and I could see someone being just, I don't know, just coked out of their mind or whatever he was on. I mean, I sort of believe him with how insane that book is.
My wife and I almost got beat up in a comic book shop once because I had the balls to say, and I was being kind of a jerk, but there was a room full of, and this is not a diss on gamers. I'm a huge gaming nerd. I was playing World of Warcraft before you guys called, but we were in this comic book shop looking for I think it was another volume of Hellboy. I'm a huge Hellboy fan, and they were like we saw the graphic novel version, I guess, of the Gunslinger, or there's a few different ones, so I'm not super familiar. We were asking about it, and it's like, oh, you like Stephen King, and so these words came out of my mouth, and they're only half true. It's like, yeah, I really like his Gunslinger stuff, but he's an okay horror writer. Like that is like transcendental sacrilege, right?
Yeah.
And the entire, like, there was an audible nerd gasp, and everyone looked at me, and Kayla went, we have to go now. We've got to get out of this shop now.
Okay, briefly back to Tincture, and then we can talk about some other things.
Oh, we'll talk about her.
The production, Matthew, on Tincture is, and I'm not just blowing smoke here, it's quite good. And I feel like you've taken care to, it's just very intentional. It's almost more like a radio drama with only one actor, but just the sound effects and the music choices and sort of the suspense building that you do with sound effects and music is very compelling. So how did you come about to doing it that way as opposed to just a straightforward audiobook that's literally nothing but a person speaking?
Let's see. How do I answer this intelligently? So the recordings have been I guess mastered is the right term, a number of times. Like, I have gone back into every chapter of every book and then tweaked my own voice, and I listened for mistakes or little bitty. Like what I just did there. Like if there's one too many lip smacks, it'll make me crazy, and I'll spend 3 days remastering everything. Production wise, it's pretty much it's just me. So budget. I mean, I finally bought a nice mic like in book one somewhere, but it's the same. Like so I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and okay, I'm gonna get like on my high horse here for just a minute. But the quality of audiobooks are so bad. They're so bad. Like when I was driving out from Denver to Seattle a couple of years ago, I listened to a number of them, and it could have been the versions I had or insert excuse here. But like I listened to Tina Fey's book, Bossy Pants, and then Jim Gaffigan had a book like I think it's Dad is Fat.
Right.
And the audio quality was abysmal. And this is of course after Tincture, so this is a long way around an answer to the question, but then you listen to like David Sedaris books. I have a huge crush on David Sedaris, and he's the only reason I went. Oh, I have to read this. I want to be just like him. And then I read it like with I had a blue snowball mic in my basement, and I went, oh yeah, that's terrible. I can't put that out for anybody. And so I just invested in a mic, and then I will go to the lengths that I usually when I record an episode. So it's what are episodes like? Their chapters are like 30 to 40 minutes sometimes. The last chapter is usually an hour or more. For every second of audio you hear, I have edited out on average 1 second of dead space or mistakes or me swearing at the dog or something. And then that's like phase one, and then phase two is okay. How do I make I want the music to start right at this word, and I want the swell to happen just after this thought, and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. That seems like kind of a long ramble, but I hopefully that answered at least halfway your question.
I feel like it sets it apart, certainly from other podcasts, but from other audiobooks as well. Because you're right. There's very few that are done well. So you were on, as you mentioned, another podcast a couple of years back, which I believe was The Wired, Geeks of the Galaxy, whatever it's called.
Adventures in Sci-Fi Publishing.
Okay, is that what it was? It was not The Wired.
No, Geeks.
Okay.
I've heard of Geeks of the Galaxy. I think they follow me on Twitter, but I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, but so those guys, I mean, they're fairly notable. So at that time, like I'm interested now in sort of the following that Tincture has garnered through iTunes or through podcasts, because you are very notably absent from social media, and I really like that a lot. Like you really hardly ever post anything unless you have an announcement about Tincture or you're answering someone, if I'm not mistaken. So I really appreciate that, and I would like to be that sort of person. But yes, back to like, how did Tincture gain a following when you were presumably not pushing it like crazy everywhere like the rest of us do?
Well, here's where I'm going to insert for anybody who's not familiar with Tincture. The good doctor here is being very kind when he says following, but when book one was it wasn't even done. It wasn't even out for Kindle. In fact, the only reason book one went to Kindle is because, speaking of Trevor Merchant, so we used to work together. If I didn't say that earlier, Trevor and I, TREVR, his name is missing a vowel.
Yeah.
But he stood in my, so we were done with the trailer for book two, because that was already planning. And I'm like, I don't want to release it for Kindle because I want to submit it and get a big fancy contract and be a totes professional writer. And his reply was, he just stood there in his very calm, like, you want to be his best friend kind of Trevor way. He's like, he just goes, why? And I went, oh yeah, cool. Yeah, totally. I get it, man.
He just says one word and you're like, oh yeah, you're totally right. Okay, we'll just shut it down.
Yeah. You met him. I mean, he's the kind of guy that like 5 minutes after talking to Trevor, you're like, I think I'm just going to lean in real slow and see if he'll go for it.
Yes, that's how we all feel. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So to answer your question, I tried to market the book once, and that just involved me sending a bunch of cold emails to a lot of podcasts, and every last one of them said either nothing or no. Like it's we another, which was a little bit. So I get it, because who am I? But it's also a little hurtful. It's like another sci-fi book. You're a sci-fi magazine, or you're a sci-fi podcast. I can't possibly be that bad. Even the worst is still sci-fi.
Right.
But one of them emailed me back. So I was like, hey, and it was Adventures in Sci-Fi Publishing, and Sean Farrell emailed me back and was like weeks later, because I said, hey, I just want to buy some spots on your show. Like, is it affordable for normal folks? And he's like, well, yeah, but do you want to come on the show and ramble weirdly about your book? And I'm like, yes, totally. So, like, just like as unprepared as I am now, I went on, and then I was just blown away how many, like, for me, I guess, like how many emails that produced, and, you know, people following my neglected Twitter feed. But the big one, so I have to give a shout out to the website Podio Books. I don't know if I can shout out people.
Sure.
But I sent, so they have these like intimidating requirements for submitting. First of all, the book must be done. It can be serialized, but it's got to be done. And then they have a couple of levels of, like, here's how you submit. Here's how your audio has to be for our standards. And then there's kind of like this little nudge standard. It's like, hey, it better not suck. As in, like, you can write whatever you want, but if I can't, like, if one of us can't stand listening to you, you're just not going to make the site. And they have all kinds of different stuff. And then I, like, out of the goodness of his wonderful light infused heart, one of the founders of it, Evo Terra, put out like a Google Plus post or something that said, hey, you know, it's that one, along with Josh's quote that I've just been pimping everywhere I can. Hey, I recommend this book. It was great. I was like, oh nice. My God. And then my Twitter followers went up a little bit. Not like I have a ton. And then the downloads when I put book 1 up there just went nuts. And then the same thing happened for book 2. And so I kind of Facebooked recently about this, because there's been a drought between a chapter I hope to have out on Monday and the last one was like 6 weeks. And there was like this little back and forth. It's like, hey, I love Tincture, but what is up with this guy? I cannot rely on him. And that's when Evo kind of popped in and he's like, hey, this is why we make people submit, you know, full books. Here's why we have our standards the way we do. Anyway, that's sort of another long way around of saying that he and that site has been way supportive, because now and again they'll I don't know if it's curated or there's some sort of metric, but they'll put one of the first 2 books in like the latest, not latest, like a top titles or something. And so I'll see it like right next to Scott Sigler, and I'll just sort of go back to my quiet corner and weep like I'm such a fraud. They're going to find out.
Yes.
So basically, this has all come about through just cold emails.
Yeah, so maybe that was the easier answer to the question instead of my weird speech. So I just, it's word of mouth. I'm so bad, which is funny. I've been working in advertising and marketing for 16 years. You'd think I'd be better at it, but I just can't seem to do it. I can't make myself do it. Right. So yeah, I treat my Twitter feed like a news feed. Like, here's the new chapter. Facebook too. I'm not one of these. I don't know. I listen to Mark Maron's podcast too, like everybody does. Yep. And when I hear about his like 52-year-old ass getting in Twitter arguments, I'm like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
Like, really?
Right. So it's just never. It seems like you've just never really adopted the whole, or cared to give a lot of time to the whole social media sphere.
Yeah, that's why when you start making all those big bucks, Josh, you've got to remember your friend Matthew over here.
Yes.
Yeah, social media is where the big bucks is. It's not in the actual art you create. It's all about social media. Yeah. So
I could just take like these weirdly sort of obdurate photos of my breakfast for Instagram or something, I guess.
Just pick the right filter, man. It's all, don't mess that up.
So once book 3 is completed, what do you envision past that point? I mean, is it just going to be kind of like a point of relief and you take a little break from writing, or do you have other ideas already that you want to jump on?
That is a super good question. I wish I prepared for. The answer is yes. So I have plans for Tincture. I have plans for the Tincture universe, and then I have a couple of other ideas, like book ideas that I've taken one of those like 12-page rambly sort of, I don't know what's the version, not a script treatment, but just sort of an idea, and I fleshed out an outline for it. But specifically with Tincture. So book 3 will be when it's done. I'll submit it to Audiobooks. If they accept it, that'd be awesome. And then they'll put it up, hopefully. And then I will release the Kindle version. And then sort of one of two things will definitely happen. The one I can control will happen. Maybe I'll submit it somewhere. You read a lot about self-publishing, and you read a lot about traditional publishing in era 2016, and everybody who's making a living doing creative writing, and those few who do it with fiction or science fiction, they always say the same thing, and it's don't even bother, don't submit. Just like hustle on social media, just start cold calling people, and you can make it happen for you. And I really wish I wanted to do that more, but I don't.
Yeah.
But I may submit something, I may not, but I want to do a hardcover of the 3 books put together, get a little artwork. I've been, get some professional covers already, and put something like that out, which would be nice to kind of cap off that trilogy. And then, I've got ideas for other books that kind of happen to do with the Tincture universe, which might be kind of fun.
Nice.
Interesting. A hardbound copy would be gorgeous, because it would be a tome of literature. I mean, they'd probably be around 500 or 600 pages printed, right? If all 3 were in one volume,
and probably over 1,000 pages.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, you did a hardcover or a paperback for The Shot, didn't you?
Which was a wimpy little novella. Yeah, that was only 40,000 words, something like that.
But when you held it, though, it felt done, didn't it? It felt like a thing. Like, this is something that, grandkids will... I fantasize that this is something grandkids will go, who in the world was my grandfather? Like, why did he write such weird stuff? You know what I mean? Like, it felt like I don't know, like it was done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, holding the physical copy is much different. Now, so the book, The Wayward Irregular, was made into a paperback, correct? Or it's available as a paperback?
It was available very briefly as a paperback, yeah.
Okay.
Is this a book previous to the Tincture stuff? Or, previous, before? Whatever the word before.
Yeah. It's,
prior. Sorry.
I have coworkers, so I try not to be like, hey, you guys, I'm kind of a writer at night, but I'll get teased about it if I'm too coy. And I've had more than one coworker, like, it's like, what do you do? And then they'll go on Amazon and maybe look at a preview and go, nope, gross, nope, I'm done. I'm not reading your stupid book. Yeah, it was just a book of essays, just all these basically it was, I wish I was Hunter Thompson or David Sedaris. Here's my thoughts on life kind of a thing. But they were just foul. And it's still out there as a Kindle book that, good luck to you if you want to read it. But
was that your first piece of writing, or has there been more things in there?
Wow. If I go, oh God, this is gonna be so boring for anyone who hears me say this. The Wayward Irregular, which I neglect, but I keep up because who knows, used to be called a website called You Suck at Web Design, which was, at the time I was doing a lot of full-time web design and contracting. And it was this weird way of like, here's a story about, here's something I want to write about, and then I'll loosely tie it into web design because that like has better SEO juice or whatever. And then that started to pick up. And then of course, like any good wannabe writer, I neglected it immediately and eventually went, I kind of want to write about my weird encounter at the grocery store. And then so I just rebranded the whole thing as The Wayward Irregular, 2009 or something. And then that, I just very rarely will update that. But that's where Tincture started. And I went, oh, you guys like Tincture? Okay, cool. I'll write more Tincture.
Okay.
I listened to those front to back. I've listened to every single one, at least the podcast form of them. And they, again, I'm not just giving you praise without genuineness, but just they were very funny, authentically very funny, and sometimes even educational. And I think just, again, the quality of the production and your particular take on things was funny enough and interesting enough to keep me coming back, and that I think that was actually post Tincture for me. Like I had listened to book 1 and 2, and then I realized you had this other thing that was prior to that, and listened through those. And it's funny because a outside person could listen to those and get a fairly pretentious vibe from you, maybe. but I also understood that it was very sarcastic and tongue in cheek, and I mean maybe there was a little pretension there, but also everything you said, I was like, yeah, he's right. That is the way to smoke a pipe.
Sounds
And-
like
the pipe article. Oh my God,
Yes.
that article. Why did I do that? I wrote an article. Sorry, continue.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Tell Andy about the pipe article.
Tell me about it.
No, I wrote this. So there is actually, I think it is in the Wayward Regular book. At the last chapter of that book is my, oh my God, I guess it's my David Foster Wallace impression. But it's when I went to this big pipe show, because I'm a pipe collector, a pipe smoker. I'm a weird tobacco guy because the wannabe writer thing. But I really enjoy it. Like I know too much about this stuff. But anyway, so I wrote this article for the Irregular like 6 years ago, called how to smoke the fine art of smoking a tobacco pipe without looking like a hipster. The Gentleman's Guide to Smoking a Tobacco Pipe Without Looking Like a Hipster.
Right.
Which is, I mean, how pretentious is that? But the like, who cares who smokes a pipe? But the thing, I had all these sort of like swing numbers behind it, and it was just written like if you had never read The Irregular, which is everyone, and if you listen, especially if you listen to me narrate it, you're like, who does this guy think? What is this? I like smoking a pipe because, like Josh, yeah, it's totally over the top. And that article or that essay. Oh my God, I have never had more polarizing response. So I'll go check. I'll check the Google Analytics on my sites about as frequently as I check book sales, which is almost never, because I just don't want that in my life right now. Right. But I'll check, and the Irregular, like the site traffic will be through the roof. Like what? Where is this coming from? And it is easily right now, because I've put one essay there in the last 2 or 3 years. It's that article. It's the pipe smoking article, and what it is. It gets linked from these pipe smoking forums. Oh, because it'll list like where the referrals, and it is totally one of two things. It is some pipe dudes, some pipe enthusiasts going, hilarious. I get it. Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
Or at minimal, like just at a minimum indifference, which sure. I'll take too. Uh-huh. And then it's because I really poke into these guys pretty hard. These like super. I'll just say right-wing political, just the most aggressive, I guess, political sort of personalities you can find, and they are not pleased with my little tribute to pipe smoking, and they make it very known. But I guess their hate fuels my analytics, because I have had more email, and what happens is I'll get people who go to Facebook or something looking for more of that stuff, either to hate or like. And then they get hit with like this weird Western. Like, what is this? Hey, I thought you were tell me essays about your butt, about your stomach trouble. What is this? Sorry, man, I'm writing sci-fi now. I'm a big sci-fi guy now.
Well, hey, if you ever want more of that insane feedback, I mean, I would highly recommend social media if you ever change your mind. I mean,
I'm just so bad at it. I'm so bad at social media.
Well, I mean, Mark Maron talks about on his show, he calls them the unfuckable hate nerds. So you could really gain a following there and really engage with them if you felt like it.
What's up, UHN Nation?
Yeah. That could be another podcast even right there.
Yeah, Andy, you've probably experienced some of that, like getting some level of traffic or notoriety off of one thing, and then people define you as just that.
Yeah, and I mean the weirdness my whole thing, like I used to be far more active on social media, and there's just a weird thing that happens where, I don't know if I've talked about this before, but just you start off and it's just, here's my friends and family, so I can say sarcastic things akin to a pipe smoking article where it's like, oh, tongue in cheek or whatever. And then you keep being sort of sarcastic and snarky, and your friends think it's funny because they know you in real life. And then eventually you build up a little bit of a following. All of a sudden, half the people who are following me are now people who I have no idea who they are, and they don't really know who I am, and then they don't get things like that, and they get mad about it. And I started to realize, oh, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore for these people because they don't know me, I don't know them. I'm just going to stick to mostly just giving you the news on what's happening with my product. And that's where I'm going to basically stay for now.
Well, you both of you gentlemen have children, right?
Indeed.
Yes. Well, haven't you found, and I have been a curmudgeon for a while, but haven't you found that your give a shitter just breaks more and more every day about this stuff? Like, it's like even my friends who will like I can't write a thing that's not just a news post, like here's the next chapter, without even a friend like digging in my ribs about it. I'm like, I just don't care. I'm gonna go sit in my chair and think about the yard.
Yeah, no, totally.
Josh,
Yeah.
I belated congratulations on your Kickstarter getting funded.
Thank you very much.
I just remembered that.
Yeah, thank you. We've certainly run the gamut on that topic on this podcast.
Oh yeah.
Not this episode, but previous ones. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, it's amazing that it came through. Thank you to those people, but my word, I did not know if I was going to survive it. There were multiple nights where I was just like, fuck it, I'm going to delete everything I have online. I'm going to take down my books. I'm going to go in a hole. I'm just going to work a day job for the rest of my life, and the internet will forget me.
It's what I deserve. It's what I deserve for wanting things and having dreams, and this is just what I'm going to do.
Yeah. You're right, guys. This idea was stupid. I shouldn't have done a Kickstarter. It has $1,000 and 1 week to go. You're right. I'm an idiot. So
smash cut to Josh selling stolen produce at a gas station somewhere. Nope, I made the right decision. This is right. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't even like books anymore. I don't even like books.
Exactly. So I'm curious, Matthew, are you familiar with the crippling despair that comes with a creative mind and thinking that you are garbage at least once a week, if not once an hour?
Well, yeah. I mean, if I haven't made that clear in what has already been the last time you'll ever talk to anybody,
I think I might know the answer to this one.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
I have been. I got your email and I was like, oh my god, I don't want to, and it's for your sake, and it's because Josh has written like the most elegant, wonderfully worded reviews of the Tincture books, and I abuse those reviews because they warm my black heart.
Have you thought about putting those into audio form and putting a nice bed underneath them and releasing them? That'd be nice.
That'd be weird. I'll play. Yeah, no, I want to.
How about just for yourself? Whenever you start to feel bad, you just turn on. Even Josh could record it.
Put it on while you're falling asleep. And
Well, there's something you can. So I have another neglected social property is my YouTube channel with my two very bizarre book trailers there, and then there's one other video. And it's called Groceries 417. And this is another like, why do I share anything with anybody kind of moments? Because the answer to your question is yes, I'm depressed all the time about everything and it sucks. But I really like telling stories. So, fuck me for that. But there's this video, it's just an audio bed, and I put it on YouTube just so my wife could hear it on her drive home. But for some reason I was like, this is pretty funny. And all it is, so just to spoil it, is she wrote me an email, and it is this, God bless my patient wife, this rote email about groceries. Like, hey, I went grocery shopping, or, I'm getting these things. And here's the list of stuff I got. And some like, if you live with a man or woman or whoever, it's those sort of like little cues on don't touch the bananas. We've talked about this kind of a thing. And it's like, don't touch the tomatoes. Don't you touch the bananas. I'm making banana bread. And when I read it back, I thought it had the perfect cadence of a beat poem. So I'm laughing. I'm sitting there laughing at work. I get home, I record it, I put a track behind it, and I send it to her. She thinks it's great. And I'm like, what a clever guy. What a clever day. I'm going to share this with someone. And then I do, and it's like, what?
Immediate regret.
Yeah, it's like, so coworkers and friends, it's like, they get halfway, turn it off. It's like, what is this? I'm not listening to this. Are you trying to be sexy? No, it's it's an email. My wife. I thought it'd be funny if I. Yeah, never mind. And that's sort of my attitude towards social media. It's like, never mind.
Yeah, and yet you've left it up. So
it's still up there.
It must be of some value to the universe.
Well, you know why. You know why it's still there, because I can't pull it down. Because pulling it down is admitting defeat.
Right. Yeah, and you shouldn't. You shouldn't take it down.
Don't let those unfuckable hate nerds get you down.
Yeah.
Got some good news, UHN Nation. I'm leaving the video up, so it's a win for today.
So basically the way of not dealing with the depression but getting past it is just because there's still a compulsion to write and tell stories that kind of overpowers that, even though there's a lot of moments of self-deprecating.
Yeah. So let me not be a jerk for a minute here and actually answer your question. The risk when you answer something like this is you think that whatever answer you give is part of the problem. It's like, I don't deserve to even say I have problems being creative, because then I'll open myself up for that sort of that criticism for someone who I am inventing to go, you're not creative. Your stuff sucks. And so it's like this loop, this feedback loop you can't get out of. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but I will, like, when it comes to Tincture, like I think about it 24/7. I think about the characters. I think about what they think about each other. I said earlier, I do a lot of my writing. So even saying stuff like this, it's hard to say. Like, I'll do a lot of my writing in the car. I have this ridiculous playlist of just the most weird things from like NWA to Enya. And I'll just listen to it and then write, just see what the characters do as I'm listening to the music. And so, talking about it I talk about it in therapy and like weeping openly about things that you thought to write or things that you did write and ways you feel about the characters. And that's this entire universe of vulnerability that for whatever reason, either the person or it's just a symptom of being creative, like you just want to shut that down because it's too much. You can't, I'm not going to open up because then you can tell me I'm bad. But if it's written down and you're reading it, that's a one-way communication. I can hope that you like it, and I'll live that fantasy. So I love it. I know people that like the things I like will enjoy things like Tincture. But, back to the social media, it's partially just why I just don't. It's like, I just don't want to know. I know, I mean, there have been bad reviews of Tincture and they really don't bother me, which was why I was surprised by, but I don't want to engage because then you can't stop me from telling the story that I want to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, so I want to ask two things about that, or one question and one observation. Is it potentially possible that you writing that way, listening to music and putting your characters together in your head, could that at all explain your desire to put these production together and put the musical bed under your stories?
100%.
Okay.
So I the music to me, because
it was there when your characters were being created.
Oh yeah. The feeling, a certain swell you want to recreate.
Right.
So I have had this long policy of, like, Tincture has always been free. The audiobook is totally free, and it's largely because of the licenses of the music I'm using. And I have this like painful open call to musicians I've used. It's, if you don't want your stuff in Tincture, even though I am following your license to the letter, I will take it out and replace it. Yeah. But like if the music had to go from Tincture, the whole thing comes down. Yeah. Because to me, it's not worth telling without it.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So the other thing I was thinking about is, given your, I forget what it's actually called, that thought of being a fraud. There's a word for it, and I
imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome, because I think all three of us here have that. Absolutely. I was just thinking, so coming from basically no following and to where you are now, is because it seems like there's another sort of feedback loop happening on a higher level where you're digging more and more into this creative space or this universe of Tincture. But would you say that potentially what might be happening? Well, I'm making conjecture again. You tell me if I'm wrong. What I see potentially happening is, okay, you do this thing, you build a following, people turn around and they're like wanting things from you. They're somewhat mad that maybe the story isn't coming out in the timeline that they want, and even the good and bad reviews are probably somewhat not detrimental in your head, but hard to handle. And so you maybe are swinging back around and be like, okay, the way I deal with this stuff is to just create more in the universe, which then creates more following and then has another feedback loop of that kind of stuff. Is that at all sound true or no?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. I mean, I guess to add on to that a little bit, it makes it harder for me sometimes to, so how do I say this intelligently? The feedback that I get that is most critical, not necessarily positive or negative, just like, dude, like they have some thoughts they want to share. Mm-hmm. That's the stuff that I'll spend more time thinking about. But what the hard part is, you know, it's my story. I know how it goes. Even the scenes that I don't know yet, they'll go the way I want them to. And the universe will go the way I want them to. And there's no wrong way to do it because who cares?
Right.
But it'll be harder when you get that feedback to not work it in to try and satisfy that voice. Yeah. It's like a theme in Tincture that, you know, I have addressed a number of times is food. And I've had email, it's like, where do they get their food? I'm like, who cares? Is kind of my first thought. But, you know, and I have addressed it. I have discussed it. But to me, it's like, God, I really don't want to talk about that anymore because I feel like it's been that or something else has been covered in all I want to cover it. And not in a way it's like you introduce a character and they just never show up again. Not like that kind of feedback, but the minutia. And so it's hard to not go, well, that guy wouldn't hate me anymore if I just did a little something I didn't want to do. Yeah.
And I guess even maybe what I was more trying to get at is purely the idea, even people who don't say anything, who read it and probably enjoy it and don't write an email, don't send a tweet or whatever, but purely the fact, and I'm saying this stuff because it's stuff that I deal with, but purely the fact that there are eyes on you and your art, I feel like is, in my case, something I have to overcome. Whereas before there was anybody giving a shit about what I do, I was just able to be free and be like, well, I can do this and put it up on MySpace at the time and doesn't matter. No one's going to listen to it. But now there's people there to take it in. And that doesn't really feel good to me most of the time, if that makes sense. And I'm just curious if you feel that way at all. Like just the pressure of people being there to take in everything you do. It's just a weird feeling to me.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I would imagine, if I remember correctly, you're doing music, your music, that's your full-time thing. That's your life thing now, right?
It is, yeah.
So I would imagine, and I remember when I was doing full-time freelancing, that those voices are amplified. I mean, a lot of it comes down to money and like practicality, but the answer is yes. But I would almost say that you probably feel that, unless I'm mistaken, more than Josh and I do. Yeah. Because the fear of success, like that meter, the fear of success, which is such a ridiculous term, but I can't think of a better one, is lower. It's like, well, they can't hurt. Yeah. So here's the like that backwards thinking, right? They can't hurt me too bad because this is kind of my for fun thing.
Or if Tincture went away completely, like, well, that'd be terrible, but I got my design thing and whatever.
Yeah, I'll take it out with like, a new sexual kink and an expensive watch or something, but it's not my my whole life, even though if we're honest, it kind of is. But yeah. I mean, can you think of is there a better term than fear of success? I don't like the way that sounds, but I can't.
No, I don't think so. I think it's it's purely just that added pressure of I really struggle with having that financial pressure on my art and realizing that the only reason I got to where I am was because I did it in a free way, like here's what I wanted to do, and now I have to still do that, but still have to worry about getting money from it, which I really hate that. But I mean, I guess that brings me to my next question: is what do you want that for you or no?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I want, so the thing I have difficulty admitting, and I would not say that I'm alone, is of course you want, like, you're doing this to make people happy. It's like when a musician, and this is not tying into your music, but I've heard musicians say things like, oh, I write music for me. Well, I'm willing to bet that's partially true, or maybe a lot true.
Yeah.
But in reality, you want someone to hear it, and you want someone to feel from it.
Yeah.
And so there's a quote, I tried to say it earlier, and I still don't know it. The guy who directed the BioShock video game series, Ken Levine, I watched him give a talk once, and here's totally unhelpful, Matthew, but it was some sort of question from the audience about inspiration or something, about story. And one of his answers sort of boiled down to, well, this is the kind of stuff I like BioShock Infinite was inspired, I guess, by The Devil in the White City by Eric Larson, I think. And he's like, I know other people like this kind of stuff. So even though he's Mr. Fancy video game superstar, there's a part of him going, oh my God, I hope you love it, because I like this kind of stuff and I want you to be happy.
Right.
And so there's a huge part of it. It's like Tincture exists largely because I want to share with other people, hey, you guys, we all kind of like these really weird, like, half of the story is told through very, very stingy subtext, but we like it, right? Have I answered any of these questions accurately?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been doing a lot of cocaine, so I am not sober at all right now. Like I'm wearing rain boots right now, and I don't know why. Like a dangerous amount of drugs.
Is the kimono still on?
No, I don't even think I ever had one.
Wow. All right.
So what Andy just asked brought up something interesting, which is if you're willing to say, do you enjoy your current job, and are you more or less satisfied in it? Like, does it flex the creative muscle to some degree, or is it pure terror and you loathe every day?
It has to be one or the other, right?
Yeah.
It's only one of those two.
Yeah, it's not too hard to find out where I work, so I won't say a lot about it. But it's kind of both. I mean, like any job, any properly challenging day job, and I'm one of these guys as a quotey fingers creative person who, like, my entire identity is wrapped up in my day job, in addition to my hobbies. So it's every day is complete terror in, did I make someone unhappy, or oh my God, I don't want to go pitch this design I did, to a room full of people, because they're gonna, imposter syndrome. They're gonna realize pretty quickly. It's like, why did we hire this guy? In reality, I have it pretty good where I work. I'm treated well. I get challenging projects, and everything works out exactly as I want it, and as I, again, quote unquote, deserve it at this point. So like, I don't have any right to come home and go, oh my God, my day job.
Yeah.
Sure.
Here's a similar question that might have a more interesting answer. How do you generally feel on Sunday evenings mentally?
There is a Calvin and Hobbes comic, I think, from 1,000 years ago that equated Sundays before school to trying to enjoy a Sunday before school as trying to enjoy your last meal before an execution. And I'm 36 years old, and I have felt that way ever since middle school when I read that comic.
Wow. Yeah. See, even though I was kind of talking about my issues with what I do, like, the way I know that I'm doing what I love is because Sunday evening rolls around and I'm just like stoked to get to work on Monday morning. So if, as long as I can still feel that, I feel good. So I feel like that's just an interesting way to boil it down is how you feel the night before you have to go back to work. Because at my old day job, I hated Sunday evenings. I just felt so terrible.
It's not so much the job. I don't know. Maybe we should cut that part out. I don't know. But it's not so much the job, but it is just the like full force real life. For me, full force real life has to start again.
Yeah.
Like afternoon on Friday, you start thinking about all the things you truly are going to spend. Well, with kids that you think you're going to spend your time doing.
Yeah.
Right. And then Sunday's like, oh man, recess is over.
Yeah. That's a good analogy too.
So I'm going to ask a kitschy question, but Matthew.
Yeah, hit me.
What? So most writers, nearly all writers that I've spoken to are avid readers. So who are some authors you enjoy, or what have you been reading lately, or something recently you read that you liked a lot?
I have made jokes about this before, but I'm at a point in my life where I just don't care anymore, that I will admit I am so underread. I bail on more books. I'll buy a book and just quit. So yeah, I have read I mentioned Garth Marenghi. If you don't know who he is, look him up. He's very talented. You can find him on YouTube. But Stephen King obviously is a big one. I'm obsessed a little bit with Hunter Thompson books, and I can admit that I have, 6, 7, whatever these tomes they put out, and I finished none of them. Like I'll just sit and read. So a lot of them are like something on the campaign trail when it was like one of the Nixon elections or something, and it's just correspondence. Like it's a book full of his just like personal correspondence, and it's awesome. But it's so much that I'm like, nope, I quit. I can't. I'm not going to be Hunter Thompson. I quit, and then I'll stop reading. Recently, I think I mentioned Eric Larson earlier. I read Devil in the White City. Awesome, super great. So here's where my fraudulence comes out. I gave up on High Rise. Excuse me, J.G. Ballard. I couldn't get through it. I couldn't do it. I read The Martian, which was kind of fun recently. It's a little much for me, I guess. And then I read, oh my God, come on, make it sound smart, Matt. I read have you guys seen the movie, this cult movie, The Room?
Yes.
No.
Only because of riff tracks.
So yeah, that's how I got through it too.
Okay.
So you make sure Josh watches that.
Okay.
And becomes part of the cult. But then one of the main actors, Greg Sestero, co-wrote a book called The Disaster Artist about like his time in that movie.
Ooh, interesting.
And it's one of, I guess for Josh, it's one of these movies that it's hard. They're harder to come by these days, but it's so bad it's good. Yeah. But in a way, not like the Miami Connection or an older Stallone movie, like seriously incompetent filmmaking at its height.
Yeah.
And then you wonder, like, who are these people? Who would agree to be in this?
Yeah.
No struggling actor is this hungry. But yeah, so it's called The Disaster Artist. Oh my God, I was so fascinated. I read it I just didn't stop. So good.
Josh, that would probably be a good movie for you to watch before you start filming yours. Just as like
Perhaps.
you could at least go into it being like, I am for sure going to make a better movie than that, no matter what happens.
So what's curious about that, even though I haven't seen it, there's a local art house cinema here, the Esquire, Matthew, that you might recognize, in Denver, that once a month they do a midnight showing of The Room. And so I've seen the poster and I'm like, who's this guy that looks like Gene Simmons?
Right.
And I don't know what this is, but it just looks kind of bizarre. And yeah, still have never watched it, but I am going to now.
Okay.
Why, Dr. Gaines, are you talking about my holy church, the Alamo Drafthouse?
Well, so interesting story. I became aware of the Alamo Drafthouse because of The Wayward Irregular.
Oh, come on.
No, I kid you not, because I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where there was no Alamo, and then even moving to Denver 5 years ago, I want to say Alamo is fairly new. Like when you talked about it, I believe it had been recently built.
Yeah,
perhaps
in Littleton or Denver. Yeah, that was
that's
new
right.
there.
Yeah, Littleton. Right. Yes, I kid you not. It is my favorite place, and if I watch a movie, I try to watch it there, and I obsessively collect the birth, movies, death magazine. And,
Oh, man.
And Andy knows my obsession because I've taken him to Alamo, and I'm like, this is the best theater that exists.
I agree with you. It was great. Crimson Peak? That's what we saw.
Crimson Peak is what we saw there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So anyway,
that's one of my favorite places on earth. And there are a lot of imitations, movie theaters where you can sit and drink beer and have food, but nothing comes close to the Alamo Drafthouse and their well-staffed team of heavily tattooed ninjas who make awesome food and will kick you the fuck out of that theater if you make a peep. And it warms my insides.
Yes. Well, and the curated pre-screen content, Matthew.
It's so good. So
yes. Well, I feel like this is a fairly good stopping point.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew, is there anything else you want to say or pitch?
Yeah,
pitch to our listeners to follow
website.
You on the old social media.
Yeah, just
the landscapes.
Where can the unfuckable hate nerds find you and talk to you?
I'm realizing now. I didn't do the thanks for having me / I'm sorry at the beginning. So we just take that and sort of wedge it awkwardly at the beginning of the interview because I just totally forgot my social graces. Because I'm an asshole. If you want to learn more or listen / read, but listening is the best way to do it, and it's totally free, to the Tincture books. It is tincturestory.com, TINCTURE. I've had people who tell me they don't even know what that word means, so it's tincturestory, all one phrase, .com. Or just search for it on iTunes. But if you're looking for a real piece of science fiction first, it's called The Shot. It's written by Dr. Gaines. You can find it on Amazon.
No, we're cutting that out.
Josh doesn't have the power to do that.
And hey, everybody, follow Matthew for constant daily updates about everything he does in his life, about his
cocaine
breakfast,
and the
about when
kimonos.
he goes to the bathroom. Yeah.
Yeah, at that, actually, it's funny. You should, if you are interested in when in the hell is a chapter going to come out already, do follow me on Twitter or on the whatever I wish I could shut my Facebook down, but they won't let me. Follow me on social media. At a minimum, you'll get when a chapter is coming out, because I'll get hate-ish mail bro, I'm not listening to 3 more episodes of your stupid story if you're not going to release a chapter for 6 weeks. So you will know what's up if you go to those social media things. And then, I'll picture, duck face photos from the state fair or some shit.
Awesome.
Yeah, all those people yelling at you is really helpful to the creative process. It's just okay, yes, I feel wonderful about writing now that I've people yelling at me.
I think
so on a level.
No, I was going to say homework for our listeners this week. Go just say something mean to your favorite artist this week. That's going to really help. So go ahead, Matthew.
No, I was just going to be a shithead. I was going to say so the two of you how many episodes have you guys done?
Oh,
this is number 7.
Lucky
number 7.
Number 7. Yep,
the lucky one and the last.
Yeah. So that's my question. On a level of regret from 1 to 10 or 1 to -10, that you had yet another I'm assuming I'm not the first whiny creative-ish beta male talking about his problems of things. What's your level of regret right now for having me on this thing?
0. Oh wait, your scale is weird. 0 is your scale doesn't. You need to fix the scale.
It'd be the top. You know what? I said beta male. Just turn the camera on. I have my chest hair out right now, and I'll flex real hard.
I don't know if I want to do that.
Andy, I'm gonna in the words of Homer Simpson, give this episode my lowest rating ever, which is 7 thumbs up. So there you have it, Matthew.
All right,
I don't know. No, they're talking about books and stuff. Just give me a minute. It's on the internet, a podcast on the internet. I don't know. It's just never mind.
It's like the radio that you put into your phone. All right. Well, Matthew, thank you for being here.
Yeah,
thank you
so much
for having me.
It was a great talk. Yes.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It was fun.
Andy, I enjoyed that conversation a lot, but granted, I'm a lot more familiar with Matthew's work than you are. Was it still useful and entertaining to you?
Absolutely.
You say?
Yeah, it was. It's fun kind of being dropped in and trying to figure out somebody without knowing Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully it was to you folks as well. I honestly can't recommend his work enough.
Yeah.
And he does it as well as I can imagine anyone doing it.
Yeah.
That wasn't a good way to phrase that, but
Hey,
I just mean for a...
One thing I was
ahead.
going to ask him, does he do voices in those podcast things, or is it like for different characters? Does he do a different voice or not?
He'll do different just voice intonation.
Okay.
Change his voice a little, but it's not extreme. Like
He's not like trying to sound
you
like
know,
a woman at certain points or anything like that.
Right, not doing Dobby from Harry Potter or anything.
Okay.
So
Cool. Yeah.
and that's pretty much it. We don't have a comment this week
Yeah.
because Andy's internet scape has been completely silent. No one said a thing to him.
Well, I just
That's completely true. Statement right there.
yeah, there hasn't been anything interesting, and I haven't really put up anything. So, and you know what? I don't want to talk about myself all the time. I actually have ideas for other segments that I might want to do, so I might kind of jump around between different segments. That might be fun. Or hell, do you want a segment, Josh? What segment would you do?
I'd feel like I would do a segment of all the crazy things I did after drinking too much Kool-Aid, and then we'd make a whole song for it, and then I'd start my segment and be like, well, I haven't actually done anything crazy after Kool-Aid, so thanks everybody. That was my segment. So have a real great time over there today.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, that's our show. And Andy, I've got a little small, very short something for you, and don't start the music until I'm ready for you. Okay, don't do the thing where you cut me off. It's not McConaughey.
Okay. How am I gonna know? Are you gonna cue me or what?
You'll know.
Okay.
You'll know.
All right.
So I'm gonna say goodnight, Andy.
Good night, Moon.
Good night, Pa. Good night, John Boy. Good night, Llewellyn. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, one of the other kids that has a name on that show. Good night, Ma.
You just want to play a couple major chords and then we'll fade out here?
I'm done.
Okay. Shit. I'm going to edit that out.